Afternoon. My name is Jürgen Steinmetz, joining you from the Breaking News Show in Honolulu, Hawaii. And with me, actually, we have some guests. But first, let me just say Dr. Peter Talo is joining us as always from College Station, Texas. We have very little time for the weather, but it's beautiful here. And we're going to hear also how the weather in Cusco is. And hear this from Maria Del Pilla, and I will explain who she is. But Peter, real quick, how's the weather in Texas?
The weather today is great. It's 85 degrees in Fahrenheit, or about 28 degrees Celsius. Blue skies. It's a beautiful day, and everybody's happy.
So let's go to Maria. Maria, you're the president of SCOL in Cusco, or you're with SCOL because I met you in Croatia a few months ago at the SCOL conference.
I'm sorry, I missed you. Are we still here? Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, Maria, can you hear us? Maria? Maria, can you hear us?
Sorry, yes, sorry.
Okay, there we're back. No, I was just saying, Maria is joining us from Cusco, Peru, what's in the Andes mountain. It's a beautiful place, and it's a place where tourists love to go. I've been there many, many years ago, and I still remember. And whenever you fly to Cusco, you have to be very careful because it's really up and high. So don't do the mistake I do and drink pisco sour right after you land. You won't feel too good after that. But Maria is joining us from Cusco. She's going to tell us a little bit more about the weather because there are some protests in Cusco right now. And this is a development in Lima. She told me earlier 80% of the tourists are gone because of the political situation. Tell us, Maria, besides the weather, what's going on?
Yes, well, today was a very sunny day. Here we are in the middle of our rainy season, which goes from end November until late March. I'm sorry I did not say hello to all of your audience before. My name is Maria del Pilar, as you mentioned. I am the president of the SCOL International Club here in Cusco. And as you said, we unfortunately are having very political issues right now. We have had almost an 80% of cancellations in tourism due to this protest. Today has been a very tough day for us. However, we are still working. We are still trying to keep things safe for our guests coming in. And we want to do our best here. And we really appreciate you giving us this opportunity to let everyone know that here in Cusco, despite all of the things going on, there's still lots of people who work in tourism, and we are trying to help everyone in hospitality so that we can keep our works and keep giving our guests the best experience that they could here in Cusco.
No, thank you very much, Maria. And maybe you can give us a little bit of background. I understand a former president was actually replaced and he's in jail, and there's now another group protesting. It's not quite clear for someone who doesn't live in Peru what's really going on.
Yes, unfortunately, ex-President Castillo made a coup in December 7th, and he did not get support from our military. So he was put in jail, and now Dina Boluarte is our new president. She was vice president for Mr. Castillo. So according to our laws, once Castillo was out of power, who had to assume was Dina Boluarte, which was his vice president. So the people protesting are the people who elected for Castillo. They're asking Dina Boluarte to resign and to call for elections, and also that the Congress shuts down. However, what they are asking for is something that is not correct at the moment. They said that Dina Boluarte don't represent them, but she was in their in the list that Castillo had.
Right, and she was elected to serve if the president could not serve. She's doing exactly what the Peruvian Constitution says. So
exactly,
you are 100% correct. The real issue is that it's important to separate the world of tourism from the world of the politics. and make sure that tourists can come. Peru is one of the great tourist countries of the world. I know Peru from top to bottom, and it's fantastic. And we have to figure out ways that people will not be afraid of the political situation, will not interfere with tourism. And I see we have Mr. Valencia here.
And Peter, thank you. I wanted to introduce who's joining us, and thank you very much for your time. Is the former Honorable Minister for Peru and Assistant, Mr. Roger Valencia. And I think, Honorable Valencia, you're joining us from Cusco. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this invitation and for the opportunity to talk to your viewers all over the world.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and we've been talking a little bit, just real quick. I'm joined here by Maria Del Pia in Cusco, who I met at the SCOL conference in Croatia a while ago. And we actually sat on the same table, I believe, and had a wonderful dinner.
Exactly.
And with me is Dr. Peter Talo. He speaks fluent Spanish. He's in College Station, Texas, and also, I think, has done some work in regards to safety security. He's a safety security expert in Peru. I myself, I'm the publisher for Itobo News. We're also doing the Breaking News show. It's part of our publication. And I've been to Peru many times. I actually had an office in Peru back in the 80s, even though I don't speak Spanish. I've been to Cusco, and I got sick, and I made the mistake of drinking pisco sour after you get off the plane. What's the wrong thing to do? But it's a wonderful city. But I've been all over Peru. I have many friends in Peru, in different parts of Peru. Actually, one of my German friends, I'm originally from Germany, is married to a Peruvian doctor. They have 2 kids and live in Lima. So everything going on in Peru, it comes very close to me also personally. We want things to be okay in Peru. And maybe you can tell us also, in your words, what is going on? We understand the political conflict. We also understand tourism is very important for Peru. How does it play all together?
Thank you, Jürgen. And thank you for talking, for having such good memories of my country. As you know, Peru is a very diverse and very large country in territorial terms. So the things all over the country, it's very difficult to actually talk about whole Peru in many different ways. Number one thing is to understand that the former President Castillo made a really poor government, extremely poor government. And he was plagued by a number of issues, including 7 investigations on misconducting bids, misusing funds, appropriation of funds, etc., etc., etc. And finally, after 2 attempts of the Congress to actually impeach him on those bases, he decided to attempt a coup d'etat, perhaps the only coup d'etat in the history of Peru, and certainly, I believe, also in the history of Latin America, that nobody followed. He was left alone. He attempted, he made a speech on television, publicly announcing the dissolution of the Congress, the dissolution of the judiciary, the dissolution of the prosecutor of the country who was actually investigating him. And nobody, nor the army or the police or anybody, not even his own ministers, follow his rule. So as a consequence of that, he was impeached by the government, by the Congress, and the legitimate direct successor was his VP, Vice President Dina Boluarte. But before this, the Prime Minister of Castillo, before this, his aides had warned the country, had said if Castillo doesn't succeed on this grabbing of total power, there will be a bloodbath. Thanks to God, we don't have a bloodbath. We have several casualties to lament, and we have a lot of people who have been injured, particularly in the south of Peru, in the region of Puno. Puno is one of 24 regions of Peru. You know it. It's where the Lake Titicaca is located, right at the border with Bolivia, and in violent riots, which have lasted for 5 days. And after the 5th day, with everything going sort of orderly, at the 5th day, they decided to conclude these riots violently, which has ended into several people that we have to lament died, 27 of them in the city of Juliaca. So this is a very sad but very unusual situation in the country. We still have the scars of Marxist movement that was called Shining Path of the 80s. And of course, the country does not want to repeat that violent cycle. And this is where we are now. There are some regions, particularly in the south, particularly in Puno, but not only in Puno, also there have been protests in Arequipa, much less violent. There has been protests in Cusco as of today.
Yes,
thanks to God, not a violent one. And everybody respects the right of the citizens to manifest their disagreement. What the government has said is that it cannot tolerate the destruction of private or public property or attempts against the lives of policemen or any other citizen. And this is where we are in the right direction.
I was watching I have a lot of friends in Peru. I work in Huánuco, so I know Peru inside and out. And
Central Peru.
And I got I'll be in Peru again in March. I know I got 3 hours worth of films today from what was going on in Cusco. So I have lots of it. I think it's important to emphasize not all of Peru is in flames. There are parts of the country where there's problems. But on the other hand, this is a really wonderful time to talk about rebuilding, of making Peru the safe place we want it to be, of making sure that tourists can come and have a wonderful time. And sometimes a crisis is a wonderful time to see either it can either be an opportunity or it could be a danger. So I'm hoping that my friends in Peru will make this an opportunity and not a danger, and that we'll be able to really begin to talk a lot about issues of tourism security, about cooperation with other Andean nations. There's certainly been problems in Bolivia also. I work in Santa Cruz in Cochabamba, so I'm well aware of the situation there. But I think the real issue is, how do we work to make Peru back on the tourism map? Because it's a fantastic country. If you haven't been to Peru, you ought to go. I encourage our audience to see it. And it has more wonderful things than almost any country in the world. But we have to get over the problem of the bad information that's now coming out from Peru that's making people afraid to go. So our real issue is, how do we rebuild?
How do we go back?
Yes. Let's go forward. Let's not go back. Let's go forward. Even better.
Very nice. Very well said. I was thinking, how will we go back into the market? but you said it much more clearly. I think that it's very important that to understand that it is
I think we lost Maria, but we have Maria still there,
Oh,
so
we
you
have
can
Maria, but we
jump
lost
in, Maria.
But-
But what do you think? Is it time to think about rebuilding? You think you're too much into the conflict right now, that there's really it's not the time to think about rebuilding yet? You're coming from the business sector. I mean, you know what's going on. I think you're muted, Maria.
Okay, here goes Mr. Valencia.
Yeah, you have to
Yeah,
unmute yourself.
there's Roger, I think, back. No? Yeah, so there's lots of things that we have right now to work in. One of them is obviously gaining back the confidence in our guests coming in. So we as a private sector have to start getting back on track. In fact, we are doing it right now. We are looking for different ways and different campaigns that we can do right now so that our guests feel safe coming in. As Peter was saying, it's not all of Peru that is in problems right now, and there's many other things that our guests can still come and visit. So I would like everyone to know that we are still keeping strong here. Things have gone very, very difficult, but still we are working in many ways to gain the support back. And I thank you again for letting us transmit this to your audience. And I am sure that in the couple weeks, there will be good news for everyone out there wanting to come to Peru. Hopefully things will get better in the next weeks. We still have to do a little bit of work these few weeks, but I'm sure that also not only the tourist attractions will be safer, but also the flights and hotels are also doing a lot of campaigns right now, a lot of promotions. So we're all working on this right now.
And tourism, of course, as we all know, because of COVID, is a resilient industry, and it's always falling back on its feet. I can tell you from my personal experience in the 80s in Peru, when your former president, I think he was now incarcerated, Fujimori, was in power.
We have 6 presidents incarcerated.
Yes. But when I remember, and I was younger, a lot younger in the 80s, obviously, than I'm now, I never felt threatened. We had a lot of fun. I was in a small place called Corporación del Augustino. It's not a very wealthy place in Lima, but it was a very fun place. There was a German school also there. And I know we're sneaking through the backyards trying to find beer and buy beer from places. So no one ever felt threatened. We actually had wonderful parties going on at the same time. So Peru, these situations sometimes come and they go. And that's, I think it's in many countries, South America is altogether is a very positive culture. And so what maybe sounds extremely dramatic in many parts of the world, when you're in the inside, may not all be so dramatic. Or did this change over the years?
Yes, and also I'm sure many of you have heard, but just in December, many of our different attractions had been nominated and actually won first place, like Machu Picchu being named #1 attraction in the world. Also, Cusco was one of the best cities to visit. Many of our restaurants and also chefs have been nominated and won first place. So there's lots of things that tourists really can look forward here in Peru. Despite all the political things, we are all hardworking people. We really are very good with hospitality. So these are things that guests have to look for. And I'm sure that when they come to Peru, they will be surprised on how many things they can take back with good memories from here.
Definitely the food. And we have, and we have Mr. Valencia, I think, since we're losing him, maybe we can give him the microphone before he's
before I lost the game.
It was Valencia. But
I don't know.
My question had been, what can we do to go forward?
Yeah.
What we do to go forward? The #1 thing is this is a matter of a few weeks' time, because the whole country has to communicate and has to come to agreements which are on the way of being processed. We have a National Agreement Council, which was in session yesterday, and which will come back to session next week. So number one is an agreement to proceed orderly into a governmental change due through elections. That's internal. That's the work we Peruvians have to do. The second thing, which is important, is that the world will understand the diversity of Peru. Peru is extremely diverse. You that have lived in Huánuco know how different Huánuco is within the same region.
Yes.
Half of Huánuco lays in the Amazonian basin, and the people who live there have different visions, have different understandings, have little common ground with us Andeans. And the same with Cusco and Puerto Maldonado and the coastal people. So Peru is an archipelago of different identities that come together by calling ourselves Peruvians. And so this agreement will generate another wave of stability in the country. Peru, we have to remember, in the 80s was a very poor country. And thanks to a real one generation work of Peruvians, Peru has become a middle income country. Some services, and today we say in Peru, it's not matter whether you are on the right or on the left. Efficiency on the governmental services, quality of life, and a goal, a common goal. Peru is a cradle of civilization. 5,000 years ago, people in Peru were responding to the same questions that humanity has had all over. How to feed your people, how to take care of your elders, how to manage this archipelago of diversity. And the response to it is called today Andean culture. So in a world that has become a global village, Peru has a huge task to add diversity to this global village. So we need to translate ourselves into the contemporary language to add color, to add diversity for the world. And the best way of understanding that is coming and visiting us. So we have our arms open to the travelers of the world to show them not something better or worse, just different. And as
Valencia,
Jorgen said,
I want to really
have open arms.
I really want to encourage you to be planning now for when this particular difficult period ends. One of the things you might want to do is think of Peru as many nations in one nation. So you can get to have multiple experiences all in one country. And that, I think that also kind of separates some of the other problems that you have. I also want to encourage you all to be thinking of new programs to make visitors feel safe. And that means coming up with everything. For example, during the beginning of the riots, there was the problem that tourists couldn't get food. We need to have in the hotels a system so that hotels will always be able to feed visitors, won't be afraid of that. And making sure the world knows that Peru is there, not just to speak, but to do. And that's really essential, that people see new, interesting programs that come through that are going to show that Peru cares and that Peru is going to learn from the experience and make it a better place than it ever was before. That will at least be my hope.
No, well, thank you very much, Peter. And Peter, of course, everyone knows, is very much involved in safety, security. He has done safety and security projects all over the world, including Peru. And thanks for your input, Peter. Maria, I know, has to go. She is sitting on pins and needles, and I'm so happy you stayed, because you said you have to go at 20 minutes ago, and you're still smiling. And thank you for this, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure seeing you again. I thank you for this opportunity. I want to go ahead and invite all of your audiences to visit us soon. We will keep you noticed if we have any new information to give you. But we are really welcoming everyone with open arms, and we thank this platform. Thank you, Peter, for your input also, and I would love to be in touch with you and work some things together as well. Thank you again. Thank you.
Are you in Cusco or Lima?
I'm in Cusco. Yes, I'm in Cusco.
Okay. I have a lot of friends in Cusco. Next time I'm there, we'll go out for dinner together.
Yes, of course. And let's take Jürgen out for some pisco sours as well.
All right.
Well, I can tell you, I'm not so hungry about Peruvian food. We have a wonderful Peruvian restaurant here in Honolulu. And for those that travel to Hawaii, it's right across from our main Walmart and Sam's Club here in downtown. Check it out. I forgot, it's Mama's Kitchen. That's what it's called. So I'm going to go there. Right.
Do you have Trader Joe's or Whole Foods in Honolulu?
We don't have Trader Joe's.
We have Trader Joe's every place.
But unfortunately, not in our state here.
So next time you visit any of them, they have a corn snack called Inca corn, which is from our farm. So if you find it, please take a picture and send it to me.
My wife loves Trader Joe's, so I'll
look for it.
I think we should end with a prayer for the people of Peru, that you all go from this state to a much better state, and that peace reigns across the country, and that 2023 started off a little bit difficult, but let's hope it ends on a wonderful note for everyone in Peru.
Yes. We are looking forward to that, and I'm sure things will get better in the next couple of weeks. I think there's many people out there that still wants to continue working, and I'm sure we can all together make things good for our country. And I look forward to that. I'm really positive, and I know that this will end soon. And I just hope that our visitors will understand that things aren't as bad as the news says sometimes.
They never are. The news always makes it worse. You always have to be a little bit careful of what journalists say, except for your.
All right, thank you guys.
All right,
and you have a nice evening.
You're late,
Maria,
so go to your next meeting.
And Peter, and I have my Inca Cola and my food, and I talk to you soon.
Bye. Take care. Okay, bye.
Bye.
So what's your feeling about the world? What's the state of the world tourism?
Oh, well, I think
post-COVID.
Tourism is bouncing back. It's the fastest growing of all the industries since COVID. And it is going to continue to grow. The impact of the recession will definitely reduce the rate of growth. Certainly from Asia, where the recession is going to be seen, more visible and more felt. But certainly in the West, North America, UK, elements of Europe, we are going to see continued growth, because there is a pent-up demand, which is still not fully released, and the airlines and everybody are still having difficulty with supply chain issues. So the meeting of that demand is going to be, elongated. So we are not likely to see a significant fallout from tourism growth coming out of COVID. We certainly will take a longer time to get back to 2019 levels.
Yes, sir.
But we certainly will see a level of increment.
You are obviously one of the known figures worldwide, internationally for tourism, and you have played a key role in making Jamaica one of the top tourist destinations in the world. What can Africa, cities and states learn from what you have been able to accomplish for Jamaica?
It's a very interesting question because on the 17th of February, 15th, 16th, 17th of February, we're going to be having the first ever Africa-Caribbean Tourism Convergence. And so ministers from Africa, tourism ministers, airlines are going to be in Jamaica. Also, we're expecting the chairman of the Africa Exim Bank to make a presentation, since they've just earmarked $1.5 billion for investment in the Caribbean. And looking at how both the Caribbean and Africa can now collaborate to drive tourism. We think that we are the diaspora of Africa, and therefore it's an opportunity for what we call the reverse diaspora, where we who have grown tourism, and we are experts really in tourism in this side of the world, can offer to Africa a benefit in this regard. So it's a very exciting moment, and it's good that you asked the question, even you didn't know, but it is true, we are making the steps to build the relationship and to enable Africa to benefit from the expertise and skills and experience of its diaspora here in the Americas.
Thank you, sir.
Hello and good day again. My name is Jürgen Steinmetz. We're back now, and we're going to be talking about a very interesting subject. It's about matching airline status. I know many of you are familiar with the different tiers in the airline aviation industry and also in the accommodation industry, Marriott, where it's Marriott Gold Member or Bonvoy, or whether it's United Airlines Plus program or American Airlines. And we have Mark here. He's joining us actually from Malaysia. Mark is originally, he told me, from Brisbane, Australia. And he's working on a system that allows people to get a premium status, I guess, in an airline that they may have never flown this airline, but they get the status in anticipation of creating good business for this airline. Mark, welcome, and tell us a little bit more who you are and who you represent and what you do.
Thanks, Jürgen. It's great to be here. You explained it pretty well, actually. We see ourselves as a brand introduction tool for high value premium travelers, right? So premium travelers that normally, you're in a loyalty program, you've got your gold, your platinum, whatever status, and you're pretty stuck on that brand, right? Because, you have to be to get that status, right? You can't really go shopping around every time you fly. You tend to fly with one airline or stay with one brand. And what that means is, in our eyes, you may be missing out on some of the other things out there. So we help you get status with another airline. It's called a status match, where we sort of sit in the middle between you and the airline or the hotel, and we try and get you an equivalent. For example, if you're gold status with one airline, we try and get you gold status with another airline straight off the bat. So you don't have to work your way from the bottom up again. You just, here it is. Now, please come and try our other airline, right? And so now, for the first time in your life, this is the brand introduction part. For the first time in your life, you're taking this other airline seriously. You're like, well, I've never thought about flying, I'm making it up, Frontier Airlines before, but now I've got status with them. I'm going to give it a shot.
And the status, where does it start? I can tell you from my own experience, I travel a lot, and a lot of our readers know because they see me everywhere in the world, and so I'm a 3 million mile flyer with United Airlines, for example, what gives me a 1K status for life. And there is, besides global services, there is no higher status. Global services, I guess you only get by invitation. You don't get it because you fly a lot. So I don't have to worry about my status. But when I did worry about my status, of course, you need to maintain these miles, but you also, when there is a status match, and I got several of these emails from competing carriers before, they don't match the same status. So the equivalent maybe for 1K would be, I don't know, with American Airlines, like super platinum flyer, I don't know what they call it on their end, but they always give you like 1 or 2 tiers below the highest. And then you say, okay, wait a minute, why should I try that? I have to work double as much to keep the status I have, and it's really not worth it.
Yeah, I agree. Some airlines are a bit lousy in how they want to map your tier. You know, so your example of United 1K is probably executive platinum with American Airlines. That's sort of the top ish equivalent kind of thing. Apples and apples, kind of. You know, the real magic is airlines that do the opposite of what you say. And we work with a bunch of airlines that have done exactly this. In fact, we encourage airlines to do this, which is actually give you something more than you can get with your current carrier, right? So let's say, for example, you're like a gold member with one airline, and that gets you lounge access, priority boarding, extra bags, that kind of stuff, right? Let's say airline B comes along and gives you platinum status. They don't just match it, they kind of match +1, right? So now you've got platinum status with airline B, right? Because you haven't flown them, you're interested, you've now got this platinum. So now the platinum benefits on airline B are actually more than what you get on your main airline, right? So when you're booking your next ticket to travel somewhere, what goes through your head is, I can fly my main airline with my gold status and get a business class lounge access when I fly coach. Or this brand new shiny platinum status I got over here, I now get first class lounge access. I get a few extra perks. I get to choose the front row of coach. I get the extra whatever it is. I earn more miles. Right. You know, there's just a few little things. And so what do you think is going to happen when you're making that decision? Do I spend $5,000 on airline A or $5,000 on airline B? You're going to go with the one that gets the most perks, right? You're at least going to try it, right?
No,
and therefore,
absolutely.
At that point, the status match has worked. It's driven incremental revenue to the airline that they would never in their life have ever seen without giving you that status match.
And airlines do that, so they're actually up the status.
Well, some do, some don't. Right. We work with a bunch of airlines. We've got this, I don't want to call it consulting. It's really a strategy piece on like, how do you maximize the most out of a status match promotion, right? And if you give people lower than what they have somewhere else, right? To your point earlier, it's less compelling, right? Because it's like, well, I'm used to boarding the aircraft first, and now I have to board after group 2 and 3, whatever it is, right? You know, I used to get 2 bags for free. Now you're offering me 1 to move my business. Hang on a sec. It's, you know, if you're gonna trade your status, you want to trade up, right? You don't trade down.
No, that's an interesting way of doing it. So, would you reveal what airlines would do that, or how? I mean, obviously. The airline also has to be a fit for the consumer. You cannot just say, I'm going to match this status. Like here, like I live in the United States in Hawaii, and I know we have a lot of flights on Hawaiian Airlines, on United Airlines, on Delta, and on American Airlines. But Frontier, for example, you mentioned, doesn't fly here. Alaska Airlines, we have a few flights. So how would you match the airlines with is your client the consumer? I don't know who your client is eventually.
Our client, I think there's 2 levels of client. I mean, really, the airline is our client because right. You know that's who the contracts with. One of my mentors years ago, he says, you can't have the customer and like the business as your client. Like only one of them is your real customer. Who is it? And I'm like, I don't know. How do you figure that out? And he says, it's easy. You got 2 phones, one in each hand, and they're both ringing. One is an end customer and one is the B2B customer. Which one are you going to answer? I say, well, I'll answer the B2B one because that's where all the money is. There you go. That's your customer. So there you go. Airline's our customer. But you know, at the same time, we feel like we're doing a service to travelers of the world because airlines, they've been running status match promotions for at least 35, 40 years. In 1986 is the first one that we can find. Someone sent a fax into American Airlines. And so like, it's not a new thing, but they're not that great at it. And so we sort of bring this level of expertise with it. You know, how can you make it more interesting? One of the oldest, easiest, cheapest ways for airlines to acquire new customers is status match. It's by far the cheapest, right? And there's no corporate sales teams. There's none of that stuff. It's just give out status to the right people in the right way. And there's ways to do it well and ways not to do it well. And we've figured out a lot of that, turn into a bit of a machine. And so when we go to airlines, we say, hey, look, we've got a big checklist, actually. You should see it. It's really good. It's like, what about this? Do you want these kind of people? Do you want to avoid these kind of people? And when we launched this service at the end of 2020, a launch customer was Frontier Airlines, and it was a paid status match. And what it meant is the customer paid a fee to apply. It was a $49 fee to apply.
Right.
And I mean, that's obviously how our revenue model works there. And they paid to apply. And this was kind of genius at the time. There's a lot of really amazing PR that the airline got out of that. I remember one outlet said, this is charging the customer for a status match is very on brand for Frontier. And it went really, it did not detract from volume. There was many thousands of people that sort of went through that process and did it. And because people paid a fee, what happened is in their minds are like, if I'm paying $50 to do this, I'm going to use it. So people like, I'll show you, and they go out and fly the airline, right? It's like, hang on. So they're locking themselves, they're buying something, and then kind of like Amazon Prime, right? You pay a fee, and then where are you going to shop? Right. Guess.
Very good point. Now, do you have any statistics how many people as an average maybe stay with another airline once they go through the status match? Or are they just going to try to get the status for a few months and fall back to their old routine, go back to the airlines they flew before?
This is a good question. I'll answer it in two ways. If you're an airline or a hotel, you're running a status match promotion, any customer you get through that is all incremental revenue, right? Because you're probably never going to get a cent from these people without running this promotion. So you're not going to see 100% of people that do a status match retain status on merit the following year or 3 months, like whatever it is, right? So you're never going to get to that level, but you also, that's not really the goal, because your goal is just to get some money in the door, and a percentage of those will convert and stay on. So, we've seen as high as within the first 90 days of taking a status match, this is a US carrier, 90 days taking a status through our platform, these people earned a mile in the program. So this is people booking and flying. Another very large Middle Eastern airline we work with has had some pretty compelling numbers. We've seen it's about 60% as well. People booking and flying, and like booking a new ticket and flying within, I think it's 60 or 90 days after getting a status match. Put in that my microphone's still there. Put it in comparison, prior to us existing, if you were to run a big status match campaign as an airline by yourselves, you'd be really lucky to get 10% of people that would go on to retain status on merit. So like, you get maybe 10, maybe slightly higher.
Right.
And that's it. That's if you did like a full year of status, not a trial, not like a 3-month trial. Those are less effective. And so you got a bunch of people that will go ahead and retain it next year on merit. Great customers. You get a bunch of people that do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 flights. They do enough, but like they try it, but not enough to keep the status that you gave them, right? So maybe you drop them down a level, something like that. And then you got a bunch of people that just do nothing at all.
So people who are really trying to keep the level, and if they're short like a few thousand miles, is there another status match after this, or that's it? You get it one time in your life?
Generally, we leave it up to the airlines in terms of how they want to approach it. Some say like, this is a one. I was reading Alaska today that theirs is a one-time deal. You do it once, and you've got that stamp on your forehead for life. You can't go back. We work with we had a big one with Air Canada just over a year ago. They had a quite a large campaign. From memory, I think they said 2 or 3 years you couldn't do another one for. So really, it's up. There's no hard and fast rule. It's kind of up to the airline how they want to approach it. As a centralized sort of platform, because we run status match for a lot of airlines, right? We obviously see people status matching different places. Yeah. So we have a centralized database. So, we have the option to, if someone status matches from, Emirates over here, and then tomorrow they're trying to match into another partner we work with, we could block that, obviously, because, people sort of chain matching around. And so we do a pretty extensive database of global travelers that have been doing that. But, I think there's an opportunity for airlines and hotels here, and cruise lines, to be fair, anyone with the elite status game. I think it's one of the under monetized aspects of airline right now. You hear a lot about ancillary revenue, trying to sell people in the booking flow. And then when you're on board, trying to sell them stuff, buy on board and try and sell duty free, all kind of stuff, right? We've also heard about airlines selling points and miles and making billions of dollars out of it, right? And no one's really cottoned on to elite status, the thing that drives a lot of airline revenue. People have status, represent about 5% of the airline's loyalty members, but they actually drive about 30% of ticket sales to the airline, right? So as a group, they're pretty darn powerful, right? What about trying to monetize status a bit more? What about trying to sell status upsells? What about just selling status to people? I think there's a big untapped opportunity there.
Interesting. And you mentioned also hotel status. So you also match hotel status or just airlines?
I think there's a work across. Sorry, big cough there. This would work across hotels as well. Absolutely. Hotels actually could do a lot more with status because they have less restrictions. Airlines, especially in a big alliance, right. They've got like Star Alliance, One World, SkyTeam. These guys put some controls and restrictions about what airlines can do with status and how they give it away and all this kind of stuff. Hotels, less limited like that. Just like airlines outside of the alliances are less restricted and they can do more, which to me, there's like dollar signs in my eyes here. Like you could do more, you could sell more, you can package it up, you can sell things to partners, you could. Big opportunity, I think.
On the hotel, let me ask you something. I don't know if this is something you guys have thought about or are already doing. What drives me wild with hotel, I'm probably a Hyatt guy because I'm a globalist with Hyatt now for the last God knows how many years. And sometimes I stay more than 100 nights a year in Hyatt. So if I spread it out, I could probably be a top on many systems. I'm also with Marriott, I'm up there with Platinum. But what drives me crazy is, and I don't do that, but let's say you attend a conference or you decide to book a package through Expedia. It doesn't make any difference what status you have and how many nights you stay in a hotel. You get nothing. There's no status. It looks like you never put your head into a pillow and you never entered this room. Why is this? Is there a system you guys are in where you say, okay, we're going to explain to Marriott or to Hyatt and match and allow these nights customers have spent to actually generate a status with you so they come back and stay more with you?
This is one of my pet peeves as well, actually. You go find a nice rate, an OTA, you book it, and then, sorry, sir, we don't recognize your diamond status here. It's like in the consumer's eyes, they don't care where they book. The hotel's making money. It's the same, probably the same rate, on the OTA or through the conference or direct, wherever it is, right? It's not the customer's fault that there's, all these contracts in the background and commissions being paid and all sort. Like the customer doesn't care. It shouldn't be their problem either, right? I just know I paid my $1,000. I'm a gold member. Show me the money, right? So yeah, that's one of my pet peeves. Had that issue for a long time as well. I think there's an opportunity here for OTAs to kind of step up here, right? Because OTAs, by and large, have pretty underwhelming loyalty propositions, right? I think hotels.com was probably most interesting on their, buy 10, get one free kind of deal. But outside that, they're all pretty boring, to be fair, I think. And, what if sort of Expedia or someone came up and said, look, if we know you're a gold member at these Marriott properties, the property may not honor you, but we're going to give you stuff. What about if they try to?
But you don't get the same stuff. A gold member with Expedia is probably not as good as getting a suite upgrade in your hotel, because you're a platinum member.
What if they? I don't have the answer here, but what if they tried something else? What if Expedia says, no, it's not Expedia Gold you get. We know you're Marriott, you're Bonvoy Gold, right? But we also know you're Diamond Hilton and you're Gold with Accor, and they know like there's 4 or 5 different statuses. You've probably got 10 different top status at hotels. But imagine if the OTA knew all of that, right? how much different should the hotel treat you if they knew that your ability to spend with that brand is actually a lot more than that one night that they think you're spending there, right? I think there's probably some money in the data intelligence behind that, in trying to woo you as a customer a little bit more, just to bring a little bit more of that share wallet to their brand versus another brand, because when you check into that hotel, that Marriott property, they know your Marriott data, right? They know how many nights, how much value, but they've got no clue that you've spent 30 nights at the Holiday Inn next door in the last year, right? And they've missed out on 20 grand of bookings. They've got no idea. And I think that kind of thing, that kind of theme is where I think OTAs and other agents could really, sort of step in and try and add some more value. I think there's an interesting play there. If someone can crack it.
Yeah, and of course, hotels don't want you to go to Expedia or hotels.com or anywhere else to book because, as you said, they have to pay commission. But what you're saying is interesting, and I agree with you. If you generate, let's say, a gold status with Expedia and all the hotels Expedia books, whether it's Hyatt, Marriott, and who knows, Accor, doesn't make any difference. You get the same status because you have the status with Expedia. You get something here. But of course, it would also make Expedia quite powerful if the same wasn't offered to American Express Travel or a smaller travel agency. How are you going to solve this? From if you run a hotel, I think the honest thing for the hotel would be and to not even worry about where the booking comes from. As long as the passenger arrives or a guest arrived, they should get their status honored, right? Don't you think so?
I totally agree. It's not a guest's fault, like where they book. You don't penalize someone, because you booked through an app instead of our website, and our website is horrible to use. So just ignore that. But you book through an app that you really like using, like booking.com or hotels.com, something like that, right? Something really nice and simple. You use that. So we're going to penalize you by not giving you any of the points that you came to. It's just a bit odd in my eyes to do that to a customer, especially someone that has the ability to spend a lot on an ongoing basis as well. So I understand why OTAs have more power.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's going to be interesting, and maybe you guys can push some people to think about what you just said. It's an interesting scenario. Now, you said something. I think you sent us a press release last week, and that was actually the reason for me to respond to you about a tsunami you're expecting in status lost because of COVID. Can you explain this?
So it's not an actual tsunami. It's a virtual. I hear everyone panicking.
To get everyone's attention.
So loosely, the idea is this: if you've had elite status airline hotel in 2019, you probably still have that same status or higher today, right? You haven't dropped in status. All airlines extended status for free, hotels as well, and so you kept your gold status for the last nearly 3 years. Yeah. And, it had to be done. They had to extend that because a lot of people couldn't fly, right? They couldn't travel. And it makes no sense to try and force someone to go on a plane and 3 weeks of quarantine over here. Like, no one's doing that, right? So everyone kept the status. So what's happened is now most loyalty programs work on a calendar year basis, especially in North America. And we're in January now. And none of the airlines want to extend status for free anymore. Right. So they've kind of said, well, guys, you've had a couple of years, you've had an easy ride. We've done the right thing by keeping you at this level. It's now your turn to go out there again. Right. The world's open. It's safe. Start spending money. Right. And so what's happening now is there's about, our estimations is about 1 million Americans due to be downgraded in status in the next few months. Wow. Right. Globally, somewhat, could be up to about 10 million people, but in USA specifically about 1 million airlines alone. Now this is a big number, right? Because these people, they we're not talking people that just done zero activity, like canceled credit cards and not flown at all in 2.5 years. Like, we're not talking that. We're talking people that They used to be a United 1K, used to fly enough for that, but they're just not there. They're still flying. They're still got the credit card. They're still making the company money, but just not as much as they used to, right? So now they're like a silver level, for example, right? So they're still valuable. They're just not 1K anymore. Yeah. And so airlines are sort of getting ready to downgrade these people, and there's a huge group. And so when these people get downgraded, this is what we talk about the tsunami. At that point, we actually sent out a survey to we sent it out to tens of thousands of top tier members in North America. We said, look, if your airline downgrades you, what are you going to do? Are you going to stop flying the airline? Are you going to keep flying? Are you going to keep spending with them? Are you going to keep the credit card? And like, what, we asked a bunch of questions. You can check out at statuscliff.com. There's a survey there. And 86% of people said that they would move some or all of their business away from that airline if they were downgraded, right? So these are people who haven't flown or haven't taken the right activity to keep their status. And it's their own problem, right? It's like, it's their doing. It's not like the airline's taking it away. It's they haven't flown, right? And they're still saying, if you take it away, I'm not going to do any future business with you, right? And that's because, for airlines last 2 years have been branding into people's brains, you're a valuable customer to us. You're one of our most important customers. Thank you for your loyalty of all this. Thank you. You're the best. You're the best. You're the best. And now they're saying you're not the best anymore. You're just a silver now. That's kind of the message. And when these people get downgraded, we're seeing it's about just over 86% of people saying they're going to move some or all of the business to a new airline, which in our eyes represents a bit of an opportunity for other airlines to pick up those customers through obviously a status match, right? So you got 1 million people about to be downgraded, and especially like low cost airlines, right? Imagine they come up. Imagine a low cost airline tomorrow launched a big, may well happen, launched a big status match campaign and said, "Hey, is your airline downgrading your status? Come here, we'll match you. Just give us a try." You may not have thought about flying a low cost airline before, but now that your other airline doesn't love you anymore, you can come try us.
I know it's really an interesting story, and thank you, Mark, so much for being on the show. I think people really enjoy this. Maybe we should definitely have you back and see how this all develops. Because now it's pretty much the time. It's January, and I know most of the statuses they go to like February or March from the year before, and I have to say I was one night short on my platinum status with Marriott. I give plenty of nights to Hyatt, so now I'm going to probably be a gold after this. So does it mean I would never go with Marriott? I probably won't. I probably won't stay at Marriott next year. Forget it. And people, you never know how people think. But maybe Marriott comes along and said, "Look, I mean, you've been a loyal customer now for so many years, and we're going to keep your status now this year." That would be a good thing to do. But let's see how airlines and how hotels react. We don't know. But just to understand, if someone wanted to get a status match, can they go and contact you or go to your website?
Yeah, if you have status with airline hotel, just go to statusmatch.com. It's free to register. You can check out what we've got, what we don't have. It's good to register. He does that because when there's future opportunities that come up that sometimes you don't know about, we alert you straight away if you qualify for it, which is great. Obviously, if you work for an airline, contact me as well. Love to do business.
Yeah. So we do this, statusmatch.com. And thank you very much. You enjoy Malaysia. Happy New Year. And let's see how this year turns out. It looks like it's going to be exciting for your business.
Let's hope so. Thanks for a great chat.
Thank you very much. And everyone else, if you missed the beginning of the show, and you can just stay tuned, and we're going to show it again all day. And then later on, you can watch us, of course, on YouTube, or go to breakingnewsshow.com. And you can see our show also on eturbonews.com, aviation.travel, meetings.travel, and wherever you find us. Aloha from Hawaii, and thank you, Mark, again for joining us, and we see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.